In today's episode, I'm getting audited, social media audited, that is. Join me as an expert points out my mistakes to learn what you can do instead.
Your someday starts today. It's time to explore and test the newest science, methods, and trends for creating a life you love with your host, Tanyamfk. Welcome to My Designed Life.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to My Design Life, where we learn and test the latest science, tips, tools, and strategies for you to create your best life every day. You can find us on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram at My Design Life Show and at Tanya MFK and at the My Design Life Show podcast. I'm your host, Tanya Marie Figueres-Greisinger, more easily known as Tanya MFK. Thanks so much for being here today. My guest on this business edition of My Design Life is going to audit my social media account to teach us how to get into an authentic zone for social media without hacks or gimmicks. This way we can focus on connection and value to grow our business. You know, the way it's supposed to be. So part marketing and part mindset. Our guest focuses on learning to let go of judgment from yourself and others so you can be in the zone to serve. If there was such a thing as a social media life coach, she is it. So please welcome business coach and fellow Californian, Ayami Hiroshige. Welcome, Ayami.
Welcome to My Designed Life.
Hi, good to see you.
Yes, I'm so glad to have you here. Thank you so much for diving into my social media and being here to help us figure this out. And I'm really excited for you to be here because social media is one of those things that is a topic of concern and struggle and frustration for many of us business owners. And in a show like this, My Design Life, you may go, well, what does this have to do? But it's a constant struggle for a lot of us. And I'm sure you know that as we come to you and say, oh my gosh, what can we do? And the truth is there is advice everywhere, and everyone's going to offer these systems and hacks and blueprints that we can follow and are promised all the results. But your approach and philosophy seems to kind of bring us back to the real purpose of social media in the first place, which is the authenticity, connection, actually being fun.
Yeah. That's like the bottom line, is just like having fun with it, because either it's social media is like an afterthought, like, oh shoot, I have my website, I've got my brick and mortar, maybe, I've got my products. Oh wait, social media. And then it's like added on afterwards. Or
and it becomes a stressor. It definitely stops being fun, I think. And we overthink it so much because there are so many hacks and blueprints out there that it does stop being fun. And I'm sure when I said that, there was a lot of people who rolled their eyes. They're like, yeah, right. Yeah. Like, she's going to make this
social
fun.
Social media is not fun. It's such a chore.
Right. How is she going to do this? Yeah. So what I'd love to do for today is for you to kind of teach us a little more about your approach and philosophy. Sure. And then after that, we'll dive into the audit that you did on my social media and see what we can learn from my mistakes. You guys, I'm going like totally bare for you guys today. You have no idea. And honestly, I've been ignoring it. I have been deliberately ignoring it. Part out of just like my own confusion of it, and also part of having to make a deliberate choice of some projects that I'm working on right now and go, you know what? I'm not going to rush in and just half-ass it. I need to step back and just take a break until I sort it out. And that in itself is kind of hard permission, I think, to give ourselves to say, you know what? I want to do it better. And because of that, I'm just going to stop for a bit. And the truth is, like, nobody's sitting there missing me. And I think that's a hard thing for us to like swallow. Because if we show up half-assed, we're not giving value. Right. And so I'm really excited actually for you to be here for that reason as well, because now I can show up, authentically with value. So
you're like, oh my gosh, I posted, like, okay, got it.
Right. Yeah. And that's what it becomes, like, right off the checklist. And that stops being fun. So I'm excited. We're going to dive into this, and I'm telling you guys, you want to stick around to the end so you can find out how to get one of these audits for your own account for free. So stick around. So without further ado, tell us a little bit about kind of your approach, your philosophy, how you make this fun again.
Yeah. So you'll see probably ads for it, especially if you're looking online, Googling, how do I do my Instagram? What should I post? When should I post? All of those questions. You'll see a lot of blueprints, and it's not one-stop shop. My approach is for every person everybody works differently. You work differently than I do. I am in the mindset of I should be able to post when I want to, not just at the 12 o'clock mark or scheduled out. And so
when the algorithm says the best, the best
right.
time to post,
and that's not necessarily true. So Instagram was made to connect to people, and with that in mind, you don't have to have a schedule. And that's like the scary thing. I'm very like, I can be regimented, but with my social media, it has that fun aspect. So when I start to regiment the fun aspect, it makes it like tedious. So I changed that, and I have some tricks. They're not, mysteries or secrets or anything. It's actually genuinely connecting with people and keeping it fun, or bringing it back to being fun while using social media. So with that, using how you work, I'm not forcing you to do something that you wouldn't normally do. And in that way, you're able to keep it up, and it's a long-term thing, and it makes it fun for you.
Is there like a fine line between the regiment and the free flow where there is some consistency, or how do we find kind of that place where it's like, I'm kind of going with what feels right, but I'm also not like, well, it didn't feel right this week.
Yes, because you can totally get stuck in that aspect too, where it's like just free flowing, like I'm just going to post whenever. You do have to have a little bit of regiment. So I have like a skeleton or a foundation where that you should be posting within these hours or these days, kind of depending on where it works in your workflow. That way it is a little bit regimented, so you are still being consistent, and you are still showing up, and you still have that, you have that commitment, but it's not so much like, okay, I got to post this at 9 o'clock, check, and it's done, and it's like out of your mind. It shouldn't be like that, because like Instagram and any social media, it's a connection thing. So if you just check it off, if you're, you have a friend, Sally, and you're like 9 o'clock on Monday, I call her, check, you shouldn't answer, whatever, and move on. That's not really a friendship, right? So to have that connection and that relationship building, you have to build that in. And some people inherently have that, right? You're naturally friendly and you are able to connect, and you've got those friends. And some people need a little bit of work, because it's weird. It's weird texting people or, chatting with people that you don't know on Instagram or any social media platform for that matter. But it gets more comfortable. The more you do it, it's like a muscle. The more you do it, the better you get at it. And the easier it flows, right? So then when you're making these connections, it's not weird or icky. It's genuine rapport building, genuine connections. That way you're not, hey, how are you, into a stranger's DMs, and they're like, okay, I'm not going to respond. It's not like that. So
I think enough of us have been on the receiving end of those kind, and probably
very
well-meaning people, right? Who are just like, they've learned the hack that someone said to do. Right. And then you're like, oh, insert eye roll, here we go again. Yeah. So I like that, because like you said, there's some inauthenticity in the scheduled connection, right? But it is a fine balance, because you need the consistency. It is a business task in a lot of ways, but if we're being forced to show up at a certain time just for the sake of that, it's the time, then I know for myself I can cause a lot of stress. Like, oh my gosh, it's 12 o'clock and I don't have anything by 12 o'clock. What do I feel?
Oh my gosh.
I think on the flip side, the go with the flow has its own set of stress, because you're like, oh, I haven't posted in a while. What should I post? Like, should I post? Oh, I don't know, maybe tomorrow. And then every day you're thinking about it.
You either push it off,
knowing. So you're in your own chaos of that too. Like, I don't know when, what, how. So it sounds like it's really finding that balance. And so how do you do that? Is it based on my business, on my personality?
It's kind of a little bit of both, of a lot of different factors, right? So the way your business is going to be one way, how you're going to show up, right? And how you present yourself. Some people like to show more personal life than others. So some people want to just do business, and that's fine. And some people, like if they're direct sales, or they're a CEO of a company, and you kind of want to show that person is a real person behind the screen. Maybe they're showing their kids or their dogs or what they ate for breakfast, and showing those little personal anecdotes. Which I think is really important, especially on social media. We don't want to be shown ads all the time. If someone's following you, or if you're following somebody, you don't want to see like, buy this, buy this, buy this. Why? Why am I following this person? Are they funny? Do they do they have the same values that I do? Are they posting, you know, that their love of coffee, or, you know, are they a vegan, or are they, you know, some type of activist that I'm following them for, as well as the business aspect. On social media, we're not
value that you receive from them. Well, and an old rule we have in marketing is that nobody actually wants to be sold to, but people want to buy. There's no doubt we like, you know, shopping.
We want to buy it.
Finding new things. We obviously buy new things, but nobody likes being sold to. And so you have to kind of show up in that special space in between. So yeah, I don't want to look at something that's just ads all day, but if I learn about something, I'm like, oh, that could improve my life. Oh, that would be nice to have here. And you present it in a way
like that.
You know, that exactly. So now you've just brought value. You're like, that would help the ambiance of my office feel nicer, you know, like it was, and it's just a plant, but like I presented the plant in such a way that you're like, oh, so yeah, that totally, absolutely makes sense. That's really where you're showing up and adding that value. But, and so how do you get there? Because I think that's another place that people go, okay, yes, add value, bring value, bring value. I mean, I don't think that particular part of what I said is so new for people, but then that's where we get stuck. Like, how do we know if it's value or if it's my lunch that I'm sharing, and like figuring out that authenticity,
all of those pieces, right?
Where we have that become oversharing. Authenticity can become like I know too much about this woman's dog, you know?
Exactly.
And then there's other people where you're like, I love knowing about this woman's dog.
Right?
Like, you just go, how does she do it?
So it's, there's that balance. And some people have that they just naturally have that art where they just know, okay, too much is oversharing, you know, and they have that balance. And I feel like people are starting to get back into it. So when Instagram started, it was very raw and real. You pull out your phone, you snap a picture, you post it, and like you go about your day, right? And then it got to be like scheduled posts and like creating beautiful
grids.
Pages.
Oh God, the perfect grid.
The grid
that was a whole new level of stress that I experienced.
That's like A level, like pro A type personality that I'm an A type, but I can't.
You know, I love some of the grids that are nice to look at, but I know, and I can only speak for myself, is it doesn't actually change my experience on what I receive from that person. Because if I go to your grid and it looks beautiful, and perhaps if you're a designer, then maybe that tells me something about your capability to design and like, wow, this is a unique presentation. But if the truth is when I get your information, it's showing up in the feed. It's the single picture.
It's one. It's just the one.
It's just the one. And so when it connects or how it connects, I don't necessarily care or know, because I may not go to your profile, and that doesn't make me go, oh, well,
I'm going to follow them based off
I'm going to purchase something anymore. And I will say that some of the greats out there and very successful people. Marie Forleo is a perfect example. If you don't know who Marie Forleo is, B-School, she's been on Oprah, she's everywhere. You probably just type in Marie and your Google will say Forleo. Okay, that's how well she's known. Her grid doesn't match at all. That woman's grid is nothing. But you love the things that you get from her. And of course, Marie Forleo, I think, can get away with a little different things because she is so well known. So she can just
she already had a platform to
goofy,
speak from.
look at me dancing, and you're like, yes, you know, but
it's amazing.
That's amazing. That's all I ever
and then you dance, and it's like,
everyone's like, why is this woman? Why am I following her? So yeah. Anyway, that was just about the grid. That the grid. I'm not saying it's against the grid. I'm saying I personally don't see.
I can't do it. It's just it's too regimented.
Yeah.
And it doesn't give you room to pivot if you needed to. And I think right now, especially in the times that we're at, where things are changing on a constant from morning to night, from day to day, from week to week, that we should give ourselves that grace and flexibility within our, wherever we can, right? I know we're all super overwhelmed. So even if it's in that one little space that we can give ourselves that little bit of flex room, I mean, you should. That way you can post what you want to that's actually genuine. So you can jump on there, mess up your perfectly laid out grid and speak from the heart to what you're thinking and feeling, and I think, and having that connection.
That's where we come back to the authenticity, right?
Yeah.
You know, where we don't have to go, oh, I really like to post this picture and it means a lot, but it doesn't fit in the grid.
Shoot.
So
Yeah.
I guess I can't. Like, whoa, there's a sign right there. So, so sorry guys, if you've been working on beautiful grids, we're not knocking you, but we are giving the rest of you permission that you don't need the grid.
Yeah, you don't need the grid. And that way you can, you can, especially now in the last, I think 2-3 weeks, we've been called to like post things as we're feeling them, right? You know, or you feel compelled to post something, whether it's, a quote or something in solidarity, or you're talking, in a video, or you're sharing a video as a repost. You should have that permission from, yourself to be able to be like, it's okay. I think that's kind of the message. Like, it's okay to be messy and raw and real. And it doesn't have to be like scripted and, perfectly edited and, timed at a certain time and have the right words or the right caption, because that's a little bit inauthentic if we're thinking too hard to write this essay. And now is like the perfect time to kind of really like take that in and give yourself that permission to be able to do that.
Yeah, there's a lot going on in the social climate and just this entire year of 2020. But there's plenty of opinions and thoughts and things for you to have and show up authentically. And also to remember too, that there is a nuance to having it connect with your business. These aren't personal accounts, as most people, for most people, they are, tend to be business accounts or business focused. And so finding that way to show up authentically and not, again, like cross over to make it still tie in as like, I'm showing up as a human, and then it's still a business account, right? It's still like something where your goal is really to give value. And that's what I mean. It doesn't mean it has to tie into a product, it doesn't have to tie into a CTA necessarily, but it ties into your brand. It ties into who you
your
are
values
as a business. Yeah.
And those, even though, and I think a lot of people are questioning like, okay, my beliefs are this, or maybe you haven't looked at your values, which is now is a really good time to be looking at what your core values are and the things that you stand behind. And then, allowing yourself to speak to those. People are a little bit weary about posting polarizing topics, but for me, a polarizing topic could just be, I'm a vegetarian, so that could be a polarizing topic with people that eat meat. My husband and my daughter do. I don't have a problem with it. I know people might bash me for it. Like, oh my gosh, you cook chicken in your house. Like, yes, I cook chicken in my house.
Oh, but, right. You're not only polarizing people who eat meat, but other vegetarians who are like, oh, how dare you? Gosh. You're using the same pan. I was a vegetarian for 7 years. I totally know that style.
So, that in itself is a polarizing topic. So you should, I think it's okay to, and I encourage to share polarizing topics. Yes, you might lose, 10 followers, 50 followers, but followers these days it's just numbers. It's just another number. The people that are there for you and that will show up for you and are waiting for you to show up are the people that you want to have those relationships with. Those are the people that will buy your product or your service. Those will be the people that are, lifers, if you will, or they turn into actual relationships.
Is really beneficial. It's a scary thing, and nobody likes the feeling of rejection. And I think
it's very uncomfortable.
And we actually need to celebrate those unfollows and those unsubscribes wherever they show up in your business, because that is somebody saying, you know what, I realize this isn't the place for me. And you're like, you know what, that's good, because that means someone else can serve you better than I can. That's okay. That is absolutely okay. And then, like you said, you're left with those true followers. And I think we're just starting to turn a corner of hearing the rhetoric of letting go of the numbers, because for so many years in Instagram, and you notice a lot of us, we are talking about, we're kind of geared towards Instagram in this call, but it does fit for all your social media things. But, it was always those numbers, and it's not, they're not bad, but they're not, we're learning. I think we've learned from the Instagram what's influencer bubble kind of bursting, that it's not necessarily how many followers are, that doesn't actually bring necessarily the value until we know why they're there, who's really cares about what you're doing. So giving us permission to let go of that. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, I mean, nice. The follower number, you've probably seen, you can buy followers or whatever, but it really doesn't speak to, if you're trying to sell something, if you are a business on Instagram and you're buying followers, pretty easily someone can tell that you've bought your followers. Like other brands, if you're trying to collab with a brand and you're trying to be an influencer, you can tell if you've bought your followers. You can tell if you've bought your comments, or you can tell if you've bought your likes. And those aren't really things. Yes, I take a look at those things, but they're not necessarily the core things I'm looking at when you're showing up. I'm looking for more engagement aspect pieces that I'm measuring. I'm looking for things that you're connecting with, not just, you know, oh, you have 10 more followers today. Like that doesn't really matter.
Well, and with the whole follow, unfollow, you never know when they're going to stick around anyway.
Right.
So as we come to this, we kind of came through some foundations of beliefs, you know, kind of busting some myths that we're at. I think a lot of those myths of the regimented schedule, that there is a fine balance. So as somebody comes to you, you're kind of, you know, working at, I guess, towards those ideas first. Like, look, we're going to find a way where you can show up based on what makes sense for your business and also what's comfortable for you, not based on some magic, you know, the most likes happen at 12 o'clock.
If you do these three things,
and doing these three things, but yet finding a system for them. So it's very individualized, it sounds like, you know, kind of your approach, very individualized, leaving room for fun, for authenticity. How do you work with someone when what if that's just not coming? They're like, I don't know what I'm supposed to post today. I'm just not in it. Like, how do we start to even figure? I know that's a huge loaded question. What do we post? But where at least do you even begin to guide that?
So we take a look at what they currently have posted, because that's probably, if they've just kind of been shooting from the hip, that's probably what it's like in their subconscious, right? Like that is their brand to a degree, right? Because if it's just kind of posting, you are kind of intentional, but you're not really, because you want to post something. It probably is something similar to what they want to post. So we're enhancing or optimizing what they already are posting. If you have not posted for a while, like maybe 5 days to 2 weeks or 3 weeks.
Oh my gosh. Some people are going to freak out. They're like, 5 days is a while. Oh my God. Okay, guys, when you haven't posted in a couple months, you need to come see Ayami right now.
So, I mean, and I get it. It's like starting a new diet, right? It's like, or a new workout routine. You're like, I will do it tomorrow, but tomorrow never comes, you know? And that's why people contact me, because they just need that extra little, you know, check-in and that little kick in the butt to get the work started. And that's kind of like another thing, one of my things, like just get started. Even if you're doing a little bit of research and you aren't going to post and you're going to post, you know, I work with your schedule. So it's not like you got to show up and you got to post it this Friday at 12 o'clock. Otherwise, like, I'm firing you. Right. Stuff happens. I'm a mom. I get it. So, you know, we do have like goals to work towards, but they're easy, you know, they're measurable and they're bite sized. So it's not like, oh my gosh, I feel so overwhelmed to do this. It's just like taking baby steps to actually getting a post up. And that's another thing too. It's like a lot of us are perfectionists in our business because we are our businesses. So we want to make sure that we're expressing ourselves in a way that, you know, shows us in our true form, but also letting that go and being okay to, like, it's good enough to post. That's good enough. I think that's like the thing that we're stuck with, like, oh my gosh, like rewriting a caption. I work with copywriters. So if you need a little bit of help with the words, because sometimes words don't come easy, we have writer's block, or we're, you know, out of practice with writing. So that's like, I mean, there's a bunch of different things, right? When we're posting something, the image, like, what does that look like and what's in it, and the caption that goes with it, and the hash, you know, all these things. But we do talk about it. We break them down so they're not so overwhelming, because it can sound like quite a bit, especially if you're posting, if you don't have an Instagram and you're posting for the first time, like, oh my gosh, what am I posting? You know, you start to hyperventilate it. It's okay. I walk you through it. We talk about it. That way it is coming from you, and it's not something that I'm forcing you to do.
Do you give some guidance of perhaps like the types of content that would help for them, the types of posts? Like, I know, I don't remember her last name right now, but there's a real big, popular Instagram gal, Jasmine something. She started out as a photographer. She's based in Newport Beach, California, actually. She's one of the big ones out there. She does big talks and things like that. I'm sure if you type Jasmine something, she'll also come up. I mean, literally. And her thing is, she goes by this like 12 12 topic grid. She always says she kind of creates like a template for herself and and it just gives her a place to focus. Like, this is going to be a tip. And she doesn't have to say today is tip day. I know people get stuck in that as well. Like, today's Wednesday wisdom, and that can help in certain things, but I think it also can keep us stuck. But
it can hinder you.
Yeah. She just mentally gives herself, she doesn't tell everyone that's what it is, but she goes, okay, this is going to be a post about this. I'll give my tip. This, I'll usually do something about my husband, which I didn't notice until she said it. I was like, oh my gosh, every 12th one is about her like relationship with her husband. And then she'll have something about, I don't remember the 12 bar, but she kind of gives herself like a 12, which I think helps us.
It does. It gives you a framework. It gives you a framework from where to pull from. And yes, I do teach that as well. So that's kind of integrated in your strategy, like depending on what your business is, what your message is that you're trying to get across, what some of your goals are with social media, and then how your work style is. I like to set some kind of foundation, but also give that flexibility. So if there is something important that you need to speak to, if something traumatic happens or something, you close that big deal and you sold your first house, you're able to post that, even if it doesn't fall within, the 5 to 10 things that you're posting about.
Right. Like Thursday quote day. It's okay that you came in and were like, this was awesome. I'm going to talk about it.
I can still post this. So having that flexibility and that grace with yourself, because I think a lot of people, they want to be given a blueprint for how to use social media, do the 5 steps and have that checklist every day, and then just be done with it. But with social media, yes, you can kind of time it and do 10-minute blocks, but it also does need a little bit of upkeep and care. You got to pull the weeds. You got to do a little bit of the work to get that return back. And if you're getting started, it's a lot of work, and I get it. It's a lot of work because I'm asking you to audit a lot of things. I'm asking you to do a lot of research, but over time, all of that investment that you've put into your it's basically you're branding yourself, right? You're rebranding or you're branding yourself. Over time, in the next month, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, you're able to just, okay, I can post this today. And it happens. It's kind of like magic. And it sounds really overwhelming, but eventually you kind of get into the flow where it just naturally fits into your business and your day.
Yeah, I think what really stood out from what you were saying, and something I already know mentally, but I think it's the first time it really hit almost intuitively, is that as business owners, we are always told immediately, social media is part of the toolkit. That's what you need. You got to do it. And so we kind of bring it in as an accessory and go, okay, I have the thing. It's here. It looks pretty. Go do your job. Go be social media. I did it. And and we want it to work like that because we're working on our business, we're working on all these things, and if we speak with other business owners, we'll all kind of gripe about the same thing, like, oh God, and on top of social media, I got to do that. And I think maybe that's the thing, is we really need a mind shift as entrepreneurs to go, this is a tool that, and it has to be used. Like, it's not a set and go. And if we're approaching it that way, that it's some sort of quick afterthought, that's going to just do work, it's just an accessory that adds on to our business, it actually really becomes our voice, our selling platform, and to treat it as that same respect that we're treating the other parts of our business. And I think that's what's hard, is because there's so many blueprints and people out there that are telling us that we're just not doing the right, we're just not being
whatever thing it is.
There's some other little hack that we're supposed to be doing. And I think the wisdom, you guys, that Ayami is bringing to us is that it's not easy.
It's not.
And I don't mean that it has to be hard, but it is that you really do have to show up. So this means it isn't a set and done, that it isn't a hack. It's actually something that the same amount of time you're going to set aside for, keeping the books in order, or any of those things that maintain the business, there may need to be a mind shift on how we approach this as, like you said, not an afterthought, as a mindful, 1 hour. And that's where we can get scheduled, right? Like, I have an hour a day, but I'm just going to show up. I'm just going to authentically interact. I'm going to see what feels right. And as opposed to, okay, I'm going to do a quick 15-minute post because I'm supposed to post today. And again, I think we've been misled by all the gurus that it could be that easy. Like, oh, we know social media drives you nuts. There's a quicker and easier way.
Right.
And maybe the truth is that there's not. And we have to go back to the essence.
I mean, that sounds really yucky, right? Like to be like, okay, you have to put work in, you know, to do it, for it to work. And I think
but that's how tools are. You have to use tools. Tools don't do the work for you. You know, you can't buy gardening tools and then go, and just like, okay, garden.
Go weed yourself.
Go do it. I set the shovel outside, you guys.
Yeah, like, I bought the shovel.
It's sitting in the garden. I don't know why it's not working. Like, no, you have to go out. And guess what? Even when you have the tool, if you don't know anything about gardening,
exactly, right,
then you and that shovel still aren't doing it. And like, honestly, as I'm saying this, I'm like, that's so much what it feels like. You're like,
great analogy.
I got the tool. Yeah, I got the tool. I'm in the garden, but holy crap, I know nothing about gardening. And so we actually need to we need someone like you to guide us, and then to really be able to become our own advocates in this, to show up and stop listening to the noise of how anyone tells us to do it. With, of course, a couple of proper practices. You know, there are some things we can learn from mistakes, which we're going to do today as we look at what I've done. So do we want to go ahead and transition to that now?
Yeah,
okay.
Sure.
You
this
guys,
is like the perfect segue.
It's perfect. So speaking of not knowing how to garden, I actually don't know how to garden, but I also... I know nothing about gardening. I would love to. Don't have a green thumb. I rescue plants, but I don't take care of them very well. But anyway, it's another story. I have not been tending to my social media, as I mentioned earlier. I have just been going through a transition of our business. We're doing a lot of fun upgrades, and because of that, I threw the shovel out in the garden and was hoping something would happen.
Would pick it up and help you out.
and it's weirdly not doing anything. So I preface that just to make my own self feel better about what we're going to find out today. So what we're going to do, guys, Ayami has done what she does for all kinds of people. What she's offering our listeners today is to go in and give you an audit, to look at what you have, to give some feedback, give you a little bit of strategy even. And so she has done that for me in a beautiful report that I hope to show you guys maybe at some point in this segment. If not, maybe we'll send it to our followers in our email. But we will go ahead. We're going to look at my account and we'll let her just kind of go over how she would critique you and rip you apart. No, I'm sorry. I know she'll be kind. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe you don't need to be kind. Just tell it like it is, sister. All right. So let's get in here. Do you see my Instagram?
Yes.
Yay. Okay.
Beautiful Instagram. Can you, yeah, there you go. I was like, I can't see the top part.
There we go. So we're here.
Yay. Okay.
So what do you kind of first look at? What are the things that is really a good place to start? Like, I already know, like, my highlights have been ignored for like 2 years.
I know, you start to pick and pick. So I try to go through it as systematically as possible. I initially go to your page. I'll look at what I'm looking at right now, because I do look at it both on my laptop and on my phone, just for viewing optimization, just to see what other people are seeing, because most likely they're looking at it on their phone. And when you're looking at it on your phone, you can see almost 9 pictures, or 6.5.
Right. You kind of see the grid.
You can kind of see the grid layout.
This is on guys, in case you're wondering, we are on desktop right now, which is why you're like, I've never seen Instagram.
You're like, I've never seen this.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I will look at it like this, but I also look at it because it is slightly different on the mobile. And that's what most people will be looking at, is on mobile. But for audit purposes and to do like screenshots and stuff like that, I feel like it's easier to do it from a desktop or from like a web browser. So I start with your profile image, and from as much as I know about you, I've seen you before, so it's no surprise like what you look like. But
my hair's gotten a little longer.
a little bit longer. It must have grown really fast. I feel like you just got those pictures done.
Yeah. It's like last week. No, it was like last year, actually. It has gone really fast. But
I feel like it's very fast.
Everyone loves the glasses, so I just have kept it there.
They're fun. So they're super fun. So I will look at a profile picture. I think yours is great. It's you. It's your face. You're smiling. You're looking to the camera. It looks like, hey, this girl's fun. What's she all about? That's kind of my initial impression. There's a lot of brands that they kind of teeter on, should I use my icon or should I use a picture, or what should I have on there? I lean more towards using your face to make it more personal and not just a brand, especially if you're just starting out. Because if you're a brand just starting out, nobody cares. Honestly, nobody cares. Your mom might, but that's not the point. Showing your face, I think, is very vital in placing that first connection, especially when you start doing comments or, you're sharing things, and that way they instantly know that's Tanya. Okay, that's Tanya. Instead of some weird icon that they don't have a connection with yet. Eventually, if your brand gets bigger, like Nike, or, easily recognizable, then would be the time to maybe do the icon. But because when you're looking at mobile, it's like the size of a dime, and so it's very hard to see what it is. So this is great. It's a clean image. You know that it's you, even
now,
if you're.
What about someone who is product based? Like, let's say they're like, well, I only sell my jewelry, or I only, and again, I could see that even maybe with jewelry, they're associated with the brand. So you want to see the jewelry maker.
Yeah.
Or what if it's something that they're not the creator of, and perhaps it's
maybe
like a supplement or something. Yeah. What would be the best profile in that case? Would it still be their face?
Not necessarily. So I do follow a few jewelry lines where the creator, the designer, is kind of behind the scenes. Yes, they're the founder, they're the maker, they wear many hats, and it's just their jewelry, which is fine. If it's an image that is not necessarily like easily replicated, I don't know how to even explain that, but there's certain jewelry lines that I've seen where you instantly know that that's that person's jewelry.
So you really get strong with your branding, where you kind of can associate.
Yeah. So either the colors, the colors and the feel of it, the way it's been edited, maybe it has like a vintage look to it, or maybe the colors are very bold, like blues and reds and, the primary colors. But
I can see why the face would still be important, because even as I was asking that question, I was like, oh, what if you sell supplements? But I was like, then you're still a seller, so it's you with the thing. Or even with
still
like
buying from
vintage jewelry, let's say you're behind the scenes, or let's say you're actually not
like
creating
this,
it. You could have some kind of flapper model that has like the jewelry on, even if it's not you, you're still using a face, because jewelry is worn by people. So it sounds like, guys, 95% of the time we're looking
I
for
err towards this.
Okay.
I have
3 accounts that I manage, so I'm already like, and then I make some changes. Okay.
Yeah. So, to make it easier on yourself, I always suggest using your face. Smiling is best. Looking at the camera is best. You want to come off as, as yourself, as approachable, as,
That's the authentic part, right?
The authentic piece of it, right? So people want to buy from people, right? They don't want to just buy from like that blank square or, a picture of.
And that's where you get to sell your story when you're a person.
Right, right.
That's a lot more. People get to know a person more than they get to know a company.
Exactly.
So,
the products and stuff.
So we look at the picture here, and then I think you go to kind of the description. That's a big, powerful place as well, right?
Right. So before that, I usually look at kind of how many posts you've posted.
Okay.
Sometimes if it's lower than like 1,000, I'll actually go through every single post to kind of get a feel for what you've posted, like your captions,
hardcore, you guys.
your hashtags, like when you've posted it, who's engaging on your post.
I don't even know that stuff about
And this is not something you'll get like on your dashboard too if you've got a business profile.
Right.
This is really something that I'm combing through and looking at. I'm looking at your followers.
Wow.
I'm looking at who you're following. I think right now, your following to follower ratio is good. You want to try to keep it a little bit lower. For some reason, that tricks Instagram into like showing your profile more, because you're speaking from a place of like credibility and authority, right? But there's been people that follow up to the max, which is like 6,000, I think, or 7,000. But really, if you're following that many people, you really cannot follow that many people.
Right. You don't really know what
it's not
they're doing.
It's not gonna happen.
Yeah.
Instagram usually just shows you, your top 10, your top 25. And so to actually see who you're following now, you actually have to go in and do kind of an audit. And And this is something
on a regular basis.
On a regular basis.
You won't see half of the things
you won't
coming
see
through.
things otherwise.
Yeah. And realize that someone who you thought was cool or you met networking, or I'm in a lot of big Facebook groups. So like as ladies we'll support each other. And then after like, you know, a couple posts in, you're like, ooh, I actually don't really care about what she's posting about. So you got to go back in and audit that stuff
or you're like, hey, I started following that person like 3 months ago and I haven't seen their post for a while.
And
it's not that they're not posting. It's just the way that algorithm works, which is totally fine. So I'll go in, I go through who I'm following. So if you keep that number a little bit lower, it is also easier to manage when you're going back through to make sure that you're showing them and showing up for them on their pages. Because social media in itself is not just like give, or like ask. It's a give and take. So for people to support you, you still have to support them, which is kind of a crazy concept. But in networking, it's the same thing, right? When you meet somebody, you're not asking somebody like, hey, buy a house from me. Like that's so tacky, right?
Nice to meet you at this networking event. What can you do for me?
Yeah. Like, I sell this. Are you going to buy it? Like, that's not how it works. So it's part of the relationship aspect. I also take a look at your hashtags that you're following, and yes, you can follow hashtags, so it kind of mixes up who you're following and then also adds extra stuff. So I follow hashtags for inspiration. I follow hashtags because of my, you know, personal interests, whether that be like I'm been into plants. So I have like some plant hashtags that I'm following. And I suggest, like, for your hashtags that you're following, I noticed that you're following hashtags that have millions of posts within that hashtag. I like to think of hashtags as like a folder that people are putting their photos into. And at this point, if it's in the millions, that means the hashtag's moving very fast. And what I mean by that is that when you or I use a hashtag, maybe we use a hashtag and it's hashtag Los Angeles. Hashtag Los Angeles has millions of photos.
It's going to be huge. Yeah.
If you go to look at that hashtag in your search section, you'll notice the pictures rotate really, 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 really quickly. And it's hard to see something that was tagged in hashtag in Los Angeles, as opposed to maybe like if you use a more specific hashtag, like maybe the street name.
East Long Beach.
You're like, you get very niche down into that hashtag. We can always get into that later, but
I do have a question about that, because I always knew following hashtags, really honestly more as like for myself, because it was what was going to show up in my feed. Is there some other benefit besides that? Like,
so you following hashtags, it does show so say for instance, I'm looking at your profile or I'm looking for a hashtag, it'll tell me that some of my followers are following that particular hashtag, which not on your profile necessarily, but if you were to look at, say for instance, one of your followers and to see what they're following, that's of interest, because you want to follow what your ideal client, like if you have an ideal client in your followers list and you're like, that girl, I know she would kill it working with me. I know she needs my services. What hashtags is she following? And then you could go, 1, use them for your posts, and then 2, follow some of those to kind of get an idea.
So it helps you know where you can show up as well by who else is following that.
Right.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. I've always seen it as like, oh, this helps me. Like I can see
for inspiration or whatever.
Inspiration or what other people are posting using that hashtag. For example, there is a hashtag that goes along with a tagline that I use a lot. And when I started following it, and what actually was coming up on that hashtag was like, I think a certain company, an MLM company has kind of adopted it. So it tends to be all of their salespeople are tagging it. So everything is about like their brand new Lexus. And I'm like, this is not really what the feed I was expecting from this hashtag.
Right.
And it's not, I know there's a faux pas about not understanding what the hashtag is, but this hashtag is pretty much clear about what it is. So it's not that I misinterpreted it. It was just that you didn't realize that somebody's kind of adopted it and it's actually taken it a whole different direction. Right. And I know in entrepreneurship, you can get that a lot, especially with like all the hustle and grinds and build your empire. Sometimes you can get some real spammy ones that you didn't realize we're actually
spammy. We're actually spammy. Yeah.
Yeah. So
and
that's a good one to know.
It's live and learn. You know, you use the hashtag and you're like, oh, okay, never mind.
Yeah.
But that's where hashtag research comes into play too, where you're using relevant hashtags that aren't spammy. You know, because
how
Instagram
often do we need to be doing that? Because it seems so like
it's so daunting, right? It's so daunting. I am always kind of looking at different hashtags. That's just because that's what I do. But yeah, with my clients, initially we kind of go through hashtags that might be relevant to them. We really talk about what their ideal client is looking for. So, you know, just because you put girl boss or, you know, mom entrepreneur, it doesn't mean your ideal client's looking for that, right? I mean, if your ideal client is, you know, Bob, who's 45, who's single, you know, and you know, he's not
a boss babe.
No, he's not a boss babe. He's not looking for boss babes. He's not looking for women entrepreneurs. He's not looking for girl power. He's looking for hashtag, you know, business it's 5 o'clock somewhere, you know.
Right. Oh, 5 o'clock. Right. Okay. Yeah.
You know, or something like that. So it's shifting your mindset to not only, you know, think about different things, but also get in the mind of your ideal client. And I really push that. I know not a lot of business coaches, they'll touch on it, but I'm always bringing it back to what is your ideal client? Who are they? What are they looking for? Why are they following you? Why should they follow you? Right. What are you putting in your hashtags? Your hashtags are just as important as your captions in that aspect. So, you know,
it's how you get found.
Right. It's
and
how you get
also
found.
Now that you can follow hashtags. I mean, that's such an important thing now that people can follow hashtags. Again, I was like, yeah, I can follow hashtags, but I never thought about necessarily that other people are following those hashtags and that's where I can show up and be discovered. Right. Even though I obviously know that's how it works, but it's just
like you subconsciously know. There's a lot of different pieces. And the reason I suggest using a hashtag that has less people following it, or I mean, not following it, but less people used it. In your case, I'd probably suggest something in the tens of thousands, like 50,000's okay, 60,000's okay, even in the hundreds of thousands. So 100,000.
We usually want to kind of mix it up, right? I know you want to
mix it up.
Some big ones, but you want to get some niche ones. You want to get some nuanced ones and kind of have that mix. And
like the general ones and then the more niched ones. So you have like a mix of it.
But the oversaturated, like hashtag love, like you're going to be in so many millions, like it's pointless.
And it's stuff that doesn't pertain to, I mean, it pertains to everything. So it's a very general hashtag.
Pertains to no one. Yeah. When you have
then it pertains to nothing. Yeah, exactly. So, you know, there's those types of things. So I take a look at that. And then the next thing I take a look at is your name, which is bolded. And there's several different things that I'm looking at here. It's, I think, a 20 or 30 character count. So it's not that much. But that little area is searchable. So if I'm looking
it has SEO.
Yes. So if you're looking for, if you wanted to add on there, oh my gosh, life coach, or, you know, some keywords in there, those would show up. So if, you know, I was looking for, I'm like, I think her name was Tanya. I think she did something about life or something about, I can't remember. You can put it in and it'll come up. On the other side of it,
Google search right there.
This is your Google search. So for you, I would suggest maybe splitting up. I know you have your branded Tanya MFK, which is fine, but because your username is that, I would change your name as it's displayed to something a little bit different. That way it's a little bit easier for people to find you. If they know you, and then also easier for someone to find you.
Well, for me, I don't use any other name. So I don't use my actual name in any of my business. Like, so I actually, everything is under Tanya MFK. So when I am a guest on a podcast, it's not Tanya Kreisinger, it's not anything like that. So it's Tanya MFK. So I was wondering, like, if that's the case, like, would it then be better to stay the same? Because that is how I always introduce myself.
Yeah. So I would maybe, split it or do a space between Tanya and MFK.
Okay.
Just to make that a little bit easier. Okay. And then you can either add, because you still have characters left, and, you know, if you've got character limit, you try to maximize that as much as possible. So
I got golden real estate here.
Yes. So you want to, you have a lot of characters left. So then I would either add like a dash or a line or something to kind of break it up, and then maybe add your keyword. You can say, show expert, or, something like that. Play with the keywords.
Yeah, I should probably mention the show on there, because we have a show one, but if you know me and you don't know, maybe remember the show name, then I should probably have like podcast
something
host
on
or
there.
something.
Right.
Okay.
Podcast extraordinaire or something like that. And then, so that bolded name is, one, it's keyword searchable, but two, in our DMs, it will display that name. So whatever you have there, and it's really kind of funky. So they just changed that. So all my DMs, I'm used to seeing it one way, and since they changed it, I'm only seeing people's display name, and it's like throwing me off.
Oh, right, because we're always used to seeing their
who is that? I have no idea
name.
who that is. Yeah, so it's we're used to seeing their username. They've gotten rid of that. They only have your display name now. And then your image, right? So your image has to be memorable, and your display name should be something that speaks to you. So
if you always showed up in the DM as like funky time, and then they're like Jonas Smith, you're like, who the heck is Jonas Smith?
Exactly.
Okay,
exactly. So having kind of that consistency, because I've noticed like a lot of my yogi friends, I've gone through a lot of changes with my Instagram. The biggest one being that I was in the yoga world for quite a long time. I still am, but a lot of my yogi friends, their display name is kind of like their tagline, and so whatever their tagline is showing up in my DMs as that, and I'm just like, who's that? I'm trying to look at the image, can't tell, and so just to clear up any confusion that people might have, now is a great time to change that. And you can change it. I think you can change it pretty much anytime. You just edit your profile, so it's not like you're limited, like you can only change your username once and then you're done. This is just your display name, so you can change it anytime.
Okay.
However the wind takes you. And then the next part of the text, there's quite a bit of text that you can actually put in there. I can't remember what it is. It's like closer to 100, I think, or 60 characters. So you can add quite a bit of real estate, keeping in mind that if you do more than like 2 or 3 lines of text, it will have the dots to like see more and then see more. So you kind of want to keep that in mind when you're writing that text, that if you've got this really great call to action, but it's buried under the see more, people aren't going to see it. So you got to kind of play with that.
That requires more effort. It
does. It's a little brain power behind it, but you want to put in there, you want to have, who are you? What are some of your likes? Like instantly in 2 seconds when someone reads it, they want to know who you are. Like, why are you on Instagram? Why should they follow you? And then having a really strong call to action right before your link, I think is really important, because you can have the link, but if you don't tell people what to do, most people, myself included, if there's just a link, it's kind of like, it's like you did all this work and then for nothing.
And learn more isn't enough, or see my website. Like, what do I get there? Why do I want to get there?
Click on the link
for what? How does it benefit me? Not just what's going to be there, but how does it benefit me?
Exactly.
So I want to point out, guys, that like we're like, I don't even know how long it's been, like 20 minutes into this, and we're still just on the front there. Like, that's how important this stuff is, that we tend to kind of we do once and then walk away from, because we're so focused on the daily post. We're so focused on we're stressed on like my captions, but this part is so important because it carries everything else. And I just love, I am gonna just remind you guys again, like that little description it's like our Google results. So it really is, if they're looking for you and they can't remember what you did or what you were connected with, like this is those are the words. So, oh my gosh, I already know these things are going to change.
This is your billboard,
Yeah.
I personally have a link tree just because I've got too many links to have just the one. Yes. I think it's great. There's other.
I like Linktree. That's obviously, you guys can see I have Linktree here. If you don't know what that is, go check it out.
It's
we don't
amazing.
get paid for it or anything.
It's
and
amazing.
There's a free version. So it's really
and
helpful.
It's great. The free version's awesome. It has so many different features. you're able to put in, you know, your website link, your form link if you've got.
I don't know if it'll actually, since we're here, we might be able to just pop it up and see if it shows. You'll see here, awesome. Like it actually pulls up a menu of where you want to go. We do have a lot because we offer a lot. We have all the shows going on, but you don't have to be as crazy with that. But it gives them, so they don't just show up at one website and then go, okay, now I have, you know, 40 options and have to learn everything about them. They can see it, go, oh, this is the thing I want to do.
Yeah,
so
you can pull out
really
like awesome. Your latest podcast, your website, the form to work with you, and maybe like an email link.
The paid version has new video options inside. There's really cool stuff you can do. So you can go free, and then I think the paid version is like $6 a month. So
it's super cheap.
Awesome. Yeah, love that. Yay, Linktree. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, because there's some experts out there that say, like, you know, you should only have the one. It should always direct back to your website. But should it though? Because you know, we've got landing pages, or we've created a a funnel.
I'm gonna say it should not go to your website unless your website's really clear about what you want them to do.
Exactly.
Your goal, this is the marketing thing, guys. Your goal is for them to take an immediate action. Their job is not to become an expert on you and figure out what to do, which is what unfortunately most websites do. They're like encyclopedias of information that we overwhelm them about. But really, if they're in line at Starbucks and they're just waiting for their latte, you know, they only have a couple seconds to make a decision, and then someone calls their name or a version of their name, right? They're like, hey, Tommy. You're like, I guess that's me. Then they're closing that and they've moved on. And even if they had every genuine interest to follow through with you, and you know, life moves on. Life moves on. So don't have it go to your website. If you're only going to use the one link, that's fine, but make sure it goes somewhere very directed. So I will go to argue with whoever's saying that it should go to your website. Well, that can be another show. Send it my way. We'll talk about it.
That's a polarizing topic in itself.
That's a whole other topic.
But I strongly suggest that you've got a website on there. It legitimizes you, and it gives you credibility. If you are a business and you don't have a way to contact you, you don't have a website or a link that's up there, what are you even doing? You know, yes, your social media is your add-on component, but it should fit together with your entire branding, your entire marketing strategy, which we talk about as well. You talked about your highlights. And
so guys, I'm gonna tell you right now, I know everybody has super cute highlights. I have 1,000% ignored my highlights. My assistant, even she was like, so do you want me to make them cute? I was like, yes, I want you to please make them cute.
Please make them cute.
We haven't gotten there yet. And I know that they can be really helpful. So maybe you can give a little bit, since you go ahead and tear mine apart or give them examples about what they need, but maybe explain the value of them, because I'm very aware they just need to be done.
So yes, a lot of people I speak to, they're like, I know highlights are there, and stories, don't even get me started. So, but it can be fun. So I've noticed a trend towards posting more to stories. And you'll notice, I can't remember what the percentage is. I can't remember numbers to save my life, but the numbers are there to prove that people are opening up stories more often than they're looking at your posts. So if you noticed, if someone posts something new, they usually throw it up in their stories. So you're kind of double dipping, but that's totally fine. I do the same thing. But for your highlights, for yours, what I would kind of look at is I would look at branding colors to make sure they're kind of on brand. They don't have to be. They could just be a photo. They could have an icon. They don't have to. It's just kind of preference. For me, it looks cleaner. It looks, you know, I like to find like cute icons.
It's aesthetic, and I think it makes it clear where you're showing up. Yeah,
exactly. And so for highlights in the image, I try to do an image only, because it is so small. And then obviously you can put whatever words underneath that pertain to what that highlight is. Obviously, as you can tell, MDL show, Bali 2019, those all fit. And then you've got like goal, and then you've got the icon, get, ... and you've got free, resource, and So you might want to shorten that highlight a little bit. So people know exactly.
Because we don't even know what it is, right? Exactly.
We don't know what it is. So that's when you have to like turn the brain on, look at the thesaurus, and see what
Action Lab was literally like 2 years ago, you guys. Like I don't even know what's here. Like that's
you're like, oh gosh, what is that? Did I put that there? And you know, I've looked at highlights where the highlight is like this tiny, and I will just close out of it, because I don't want to have to go through 30 different stories to figure out the last highlight that they just talked about. Because you'll follow somebody and they'll go, I put it in my highlight on the, they'll show a screenshot, and I'm like, ooh, I wanted to learn about, whatever it is they're talking about. I go, and it's like 50 stories deep, and you're like, forget it. No, because it's, and they show it in a chronological order, right? Oldest to the latest one, because it's kind of like watching your story. So you want to make sure that it's
not too big, it sounds like.
Not too long. Yeah, not too long.
And they serve a purpose, right? So,
right.
I mean, again, I think for businesses, okay, so I have a travel account, right? So like I said, I manage 3 accounts. So I say manage, it's me, they're my accounts. I'm a social media manager. I'm just insane. So
you're gonna get hit up for people wanting you to manage your social media now.
Yeah. They're like, oh my gosh, like, no, did you see my
just
page?
Add another account on.
Add another account. We had some reasons for having them separate. So I have like my personal / travel account. And that for me, that's really easy to do highlights, because it's like Sweden, Thailand, so it's like, these are the highlights. Well, when we come to business, can you give us maybe some examples of what we would see or could think about to put into our highlights?
So FAQs is a huge one. If you keep getting asked the same question, like, what should I post on my social media? Maybe you get on your stories and you do 5 stories, or you could even pre-record it and do it that way, and talk about it a little bit, and then throw it in your highlights. So the next time someone
jumps into your DMs, from recording to, I mean, I know it can go directly to stories, but it always has to go through stories first before it can become a highlight, right?
Yes. Yeah, I know. That's kind of like a weird thing too. So like when I'm putting up my icons, I'm just like, ignore this one. It's weird.
Just trying to get it into my highlights. And it's always so funny. But FAQs is a great one, because when people are sliding into your DMs and asking you that question like over and over, instead of getting frustrated and gotta type out this whole long thing again, you can just say, hey, you know what? I actually threw it in my highlight, 3 weeks ago. Here's a screenshot, circle the highlight, send that image back to them. And that way they can look at it at their leisure. Nice. They can go back and look at it. For me, sometimes I'll throw like recipes, not that I'm like a recipe guru or anything, but if that's part of what you share.
But if that's part of what I share. And so, I'll do stuff like that, because people are like, wait, I saw that last night, but it disappeared. Like, what did you make? And where can I find that? I don't have a blog, because that's a whole nother bear.
Yeah, whole other business we can talk about.
Yeah. Okay. So highlights are kind of like your short little blog pieces.
So FAQs would be one for a business. So what are there any other maybe examples of categories for
like day to day, like a day in the life of? A lot of people like to know like day in the life of Tanya. Like, what do you get started with? Do you do yoga? Are you drinking coffee? Are you sitting on your porch? Are you like laid out on the floor of your living room meditating?
When you first said that, it threw me off at first, because I was like, no one cares what I'm doing. However, then I had to put my other hat on and go, almost everything that I talk about is about the importance of creating a morning routine and a schedule. And so if I can flip that to go, it's not about like, look what I'm doing. It's about, this is what morning routines are like. This is what, because that's what I talk about. Right. So if that's something that you talk about, setting up your workspace, or how you, this is another thing. If you're creating a craft, if you're creating, if you're crafting something, so you're a jewelry designer. I had somebody that I worked with before who was doing like hand sewn items. And one of the struggles that she used to come against was people not understanding the costs, because they didn't understand what really went in.
They don't know the value of it.
Right. Because they're like, well, I could buy that same thing over at Walmart for this much. And then they're like, yeah, but you don't understand this and this and this. And as soon as you would hear someone say that, you're like, that's the point. They don't understand. And so it's your point to educate, your job to educate them. So if you make something like that, you may not, and maybe you have something proprietary you don't want to give away, but if you can still use that to even explain maybe,
parts of it,
you going to source materials and how choosy you are,
because we don't do that on a normal basis. And I think as humans, we're inherently voyeuristic, right? We want to kind of know the ins and outs of how things work and what goes into it. And you're able to appreciate, like you said, the jewelry designers. I I'm a girl. I follow so many jewelry designers.
Well, you can learn about it. So I guess
Yeah.
for those of you who do create products, that could be another category you could
It
put
totally
up there.
is.
So if that like day in the life threw you off at first, the way it does me, like, who
Right.
am I? I'm not like, I'm not Kardashian. No one gives a crap what I'm doing.
Right.
It actually, you got to just twist that mindset a little bit to go to it's the things I do to create what I create, or to illustrate what I teach and why it matters to
or
me.
to get through the day, or like even like mini meditations, those are great. Maybe it's your daily affirmation.
Right. So some of your
awesome.
kind of freebies perhaps are your things like you said, okay, maybe there's a meditation you give away. So that can actually be in there, the information or the steps or something like that.
It's all like the nuanced stuff. So like that kind of ties into your stories. Like, what am I posting in my stories? It can literally be anything. And that's like the hard thing that I had to kind of let go. Like I thought, okay, it has to be regimented. Like I need to be like, okay, holding my phone a certain way. My hair has to look like, and it doesn't have to be like that. So stories was created kind of like Snapchat, where it shows up for 24 hours, then disappears. Now they have the option to keep it in highlights, which is awesome because a lot of great content is coming out of our stories, right? It's like that instant light bulb moment. You're like, oh my gosh, I just did this thing. I have to share it with everybody, but it's not going to go well in a post. Like this stories is a great outlet for that. And so you're able to share things and learn a lot of things in stories.
So we bring that into our highlights. So through our highlights, and I know we'll have to like kind of wrap up in a little bit, but so we've kind of gone through our profile. We've learned how important that is. Just that small little piece, guys, is so important. And then moving into what the heck to do with highlights. Obviously, aesthetically pleasing does help. That's one thing. Like ditch the grid, but get the icons looking nice and matchy and make sense. Definitely have things that you know right away what they are. So maybe without spending too much time here, because I of course what to post in the content, we could go, I'm sure, into it.
For days,
we need a part 3 series.
Days.
But maybe you can give us kind of a quick thing of what you've learned and can suggest from my post, because I know for me, I really wanted to mix in things in between our kind of standard posts, because we do have our standard learn, take actions, and giveaways. As you can see, I literally have not showed up at all, because if I did, there would be things in between these items. And you can see at one point way back here, I don't even know where it was, I was showing up like in between with different stuff, but then it just life got in the way. So,
and that's fine. And your feed will always evolve. That's the thing too. Like it's okay for your feed to evolve and for you to post something totally different. So when I started with Instagram, probably back in like 2010, 11, I want to say, I was just posting like random pictures that I was taking with the Instagram app, because like that was the only way you could post pictures, was like through the Instagram
you
app.
had to use
the upload pictures. And I think that's kind of back to where we're at now, where they want the less edited, the more raw, the more authentic photos, because anybody can Photoshop anything with a free app. iPhone's photo editing software now is incredible.
But thankfully it's coming back around. So it kind of went to like, it was raw and easy because it was brand new. Then people got real fancy,
very regimented,
and we all were like, oh my gosh, we're totally not worthy.
I'm not worthy, not worthy.
And then everyone got to like, actually we don't really care about that because it's so overdone. And now we're back. Now there's actually apps, guys. If you want to talk about full circle, there's apps to make it look raw. So we're in a whole different place. And you're
people
like,
are taking it on their.
I can look raw without an app. So we can do that. So if you were to give maybe just a couple of quick pointers here of what could be done to enhance and works better, to give the listeners some ideas for themselves, let's do that.
So I've noticed that you do have your branded colors and you have a certain text that you always use. So instantly it's like, okay, that's Tanya's post. That's Tanya's post. What I would change is maybe diversifying with color, because I feel like your personality is very vibrant. Your brand is very colorful. You're full of life, and your posts don't necessarily reflect that. Black or like almost black and like gold is very serious. And for me, knowing you now, I'm like, you've got this great smile and like people love like seeing your face. Clearly there's one profile picture that they love seeing you.
Yeah, I saw that you mentioned that in my report.
Yes.
We'll pull it up. And it's always so weird to me, guys. So
and
this
it's kind
one
of just
here,
like,
we had like a lot, and it's your face. And I'm like, people, it's a weird thing, guys. But yeah, I know it from the receiving end. If I see someone's big old smile, I'm like, yeah, girl.
Yeah,
I'm like,
so exactly. So I think learning to celebrate yourself would be really, really great. I know it's weird, like
that's Ayami's part 4 series now.
Yeah.
We're just wrapping up like what we need to go into.
Here we
time.
go, series into 2021. But yeah, I would maybe start diversifying more with more like images that speak to you, and maybe less text. Just because Instagram is more, it's starting to be more raw and real. And so if you show up, I know it's going to be weird because it doesn't necessarily fit in with the last, 9 to 20 images that you have. But people are okay to adapt. It doesn't have to fit into your grid, like you said. So
and the grid, honestly, guys, it was made so I could show up in between, and I just haven't. So I was like, I was feeling the same way. I'm like, gosh, it seems a little cold here. I need to do something. So so having some brand colors. If we were to take from my example, what I'm hearing is if you do have some text or some things here, or what you can do, keeping within your brand colors is helpful, but we're not saying that your grid has to have some perfect grid like match. But if you're going to do something like you need some branding in there,
some consistencies. So when someone sees your post, they're instantly knowing that it's Tanyamfk and not just some random person that they've started following. I feel like that's important to have that kind of consistency.
And sometimes that can be as simple as little watermark type of logo on your normal image. And I see that from some people I follow. I'm like, I always know it's them. Even if I didn't necessarily know who they were, I now like am used to seeing that logo or that thing.
And it's over and over, it's that whole thing of seeing it over and over and training people basically to know who you are. So for mine, I know that I always use a watermark. It's always the same font. It's always in the same bottom left-hand corner. I always have like blues and greens, outdoor colors like the sky or some form of nature in my photos. And those are aspects that I talk about based on the content you have already produced. So I'm not asking you to, go out and like rebrand yourself or use like different colors. We're using what you already have as a foundation because you've already well branded yourself, and then translating it to social media. So working with what you have and then making it adaptable. So I would still integrate gold. I would still integrate black. I would still integrate the whites and the grays because those are your brand colors. But I would also probably throw in splashes of red because I feel like you look good in red. I feel like you use red, like
and just really break it up. So there's a little more and see, there's a perfect example, guys, right there where it all looking matchy is not necessarily doesn't necessarily pay off. Like I have these things there, but there's a whole element of what I could be teaching and speaking to more that is missing from because I haven't been showing up. And so I think that was also in your report was like, what can I teach them? What can I show them? And I know some of the questions, I actually wrote it down somewhere that says, ask your, basically when you show up in somebody's feed, the reaction that you want is someone to say, I needed to hear that, or wow, I didn't know that, or man, that was helpful. And so if what you post can elicit those reactions, and I'm saying that from a business standpoint, there are other ways wherever if you're showing it for other reasons, it doesn't have to elicit a damn thing. Okay. But because you just want to show up, that's what you're doing. You're like, I ate this today and I'm happy about it. You're like, I don't care how you feel.
Okay. Fine.
But if you're showing up for business, ask yourself, does it do any of these things? Do every single one of your posts have to do that? No. But you can start to measure how often you're showing up by, and that's the value. Does it do something where it's like, wow, I needed to hear that. I didn't know that, because now it means you're teaching something, or, that was helpful or something. So coming up and showing up. And so you can see here, we do have some things about how to take action and what you can learn today because of the show. But there's not a lot that I'm showing up with as a coach or as a strategist of giving that information, because I haven't been showing up. So I think if we were to kind of wrap this up, that's another way for you to that's what's
to add
missing,
value,
right?
To add value, and people are a little bit iffy about giving away like their secrets or whatever, but the more you add value, you'll be surprised. If you know, you're giving all of this for free. Like, what are you offering when?
Yeah. You know, and I think we said it before, if it's possible for you to give everything you know away in Instagram, you have some more work to do then. Okay. And the truth is there's nothing new under the sun. Everything that you can say is going to be out there in some way or another.
You can Google
there's some great philosopher who said it, you know, 600 years ago. It's not about that. It's about you, and they're going to connect it to you, and they want to hear it from you because there's something that they vibe with. And so you need to show that vibe. Don't worry about your information. I'm sorry to say, for most of us, it's not extremely unique. It's out there in some way, shape, or form. But the difference is, do I want to listen to that YouTuber who's extremely boring explain it, or do I want to listen to you say it? You know, I taught a Canva class. Canva's everywhere. But some people wanted to hear it from me. I was like, you guys, there's tutorials. They're like, can you teach something?
Figure it out.
And so we did that because that's at the time what we wanted to do. So, and was asked for because they wanted to hear me ramble about it. So show up for that. Ayami, before we to go to wrap up, is there any last things about the grid or anything you just want to make sure to mention, or you think we've covered?
So the last thing I think we've kind of touched on a little bit. Each post should be a standalone post, right? So if someone sees it in their feed, you know,
it's looking as like,
they know what it is, they know who it is, what you're talking about, what you're offering, are you, you know, providing value, all of that good stuff. And then also, it should kind of tie into your overall feed and your overall branding theme, right? Like the colors, the words that you use. A lot of people have catchphrases, so they'll, you know, integrate those either in their videos or their posts. And so, you know, yes, standalone, but also cohesive, and kind of marrying those two together.
All right. Well, I'm going to bring us back. So speaking of our wonderful faces, we can bring our faces back onto the screen here. Hi, we're back again. All right. Well, you have given us so much amazing information. And again, just like she said, guys, if this is what she can give us for free, then imagine what you can get when you come and work with her. And this was only part of the free thing that she did. So I'm telling you right now, there's so much value in this. And I just can't even imagine like what else she's going to like do. Like working with her as a coach is going to be absolutely amazing. So before we go, can you please tell everyone where they can find you, how they can work with you, and maybe a little about the freebie that you do have for them today?
Sure. So I am, or can be found on ayamihiroshige.com. I'm on all social media platforms, Twitter, oh my gosh, Instagram, Facebook, under Ayami Hiroshige. I'm sure you'll put that in the show notes, right?
Yes, absolutely.
And then as far as the freebie, it is an audit, just kind of like what we touched on with Tanya, and it does include a full audit. So I am combing through all of your information, giving suggestions when you need it, and then also a free mini strategy for about 3 weeks. So
that's amazing.
Yeah.
And you guys, I'm telling you, it shows, it's not just like, she's going to give you the information, but it shows them this beautifully like packaged report. There's images, like it's absolutely amazing. If you know how like regimented and like systematic I am, I was like, oh, this is like music to my ears and my eyes, if that's possible. Cause I was like, it's so organized. So it's absolutely amazing. Do not sleep on this. Like you need to take her up on this, and then you need to, whatever else she will do for you, like you can get like that her coaching will do, like do it, because like it's hard to figure this all out, guys, and that's why we have someone like her who's going to come in and get us going. So again, thank you so much, Ayami, for being here, for giving us all of this value. I appreciate it so much.
Thank you. That was fun.
Absolutely. Well, now you guys make sure to go and connect with her at Ayami Hiroshige on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, all the places you can find her. Get that audit and that personal strategy. What a great place to get started with support. And she's offering it for free. So again, if I hear any of you haven't taken that opportunity and then you complain about your social media, like we're just not even friends anymore. Okay. Yeah. So as always, remember you can connect with me at My Design Life Show and at Tanyamfk on Facebook and Instagram, which you just saw, and learn more about our courses, workshops, and coaching at tanyamfk.com. And if you like this episode, then make sure to subscribe and follow. And you'll get notified when our next one is up when you click that button now. So remember, your someday starts today. Make it the best. I'm Tanyamfk, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for joining us. You can catch us every week at 1 p.m. EST live on the My Design Life Show Facebook page and on YouTube at the Tanyamfk channel. See how the challenges go by following us on Facebook and Instagram at My Design Life Show and at Tanyamfk. Do you have a method, tip, or hack you'd like to share or explore? Submit to be a guest or suggest a topic by visiting mydesignedlife.show.